Today is November 6, 2019. Global warming is a hoax. This is more like the grand solar minimum. I've got an acre of clover, Dutch white clover. I've shown the other area in my videos, but this is my west end, and I've got it on all sides of the trees. And I double stacked my hives and said they were ready for winter. But I'd rather be safe than sorry, because what has happened over here, I didn't plug the top hole of the bottom hive. I probably should have. They say hindsight's 20/20. I should have plugged this hole right here. This hole here. Because even though I trained these, setting them over a couple deeps for a couple weeks, they have, and I'm a little concerned about the size of them, and they really go after that cane sugar. This one here hasn't. They're in the middle, and it hasn't warmed up enough for me. The last time they were out was October 28th. It hasn't warmed up enough here for me to open this up and let the bees fly around and go back into one deep. I took a hive tool, stuck it in there, twisted it, and I looked in there with a flashlight, and they are here to here. So it's safer for me to take them inside, where I can, if you've seen my other videos from the last few winters, I can open them up inside, gather them all up, and get them back in the hive. So I've got 8 here that are too heavy for me to carry. A year ago, I gave myself a double hernia, trying to be He-Man or Superman, and the doctor said I'd never be the same. So I have to use the tools I have, which is a whole lot smarter to use a bucket of your tractor than trying to pick up the hive. So these are too heavy to pick up, and of course those are. And what bothers me is it's supposed to be in the 20s next week and overnight lows in the teens. If I had checked, say I open up these fuses every day and I check the size of the colony, if I found one that I was worried about, it would take me at least a half hour or so just to move the top one off and get down to the bottom one. I'm an electrical contractor, and this is the busiest time of year for me. I don't have every weekday to spend on my bees like I wish I had, only on weekends. But if you have a day that's a weekday and you find out your bees are chilled, you need to bring them in and they're down at the bottom, it's going to take you longer, twice as long. And what I do is I put them over here on my loading dock or my deck or whatever you want to call it, and I have a hand truck, and I've got my window hives covered up to keep the heat in the room in. I've gathered up some bees and I put them on entrance feeder in the inside of the hive, and it's still not warm enough for them to start walking around getting in the hive, so I put the comforters up. Now these are the ones that I was able to carry in, and see, I like the idea of being able to check them, see how they're doing. When they're stacked, you really can't. You can check through the front, but you can't check the top. And that formic acid I used last winter, I checked colonies during the winter with some powdered sugar, and I found absolutely no mites whatsoever. And I would like to do the same thing this winter, just randomly check a colony that seems to be decreasing in size and see if I can get any mites to come out. That formic formic acid, they claim on that. They say it is mites, Varroa mites are expected to not become resistant to formic acid. So there's no guarantee that they will always be killed by the formic acid. So there's a chance that this stuff here may only work once. And if that's the case, I'm right back to where I was a few years ago. I had honeybees for 3 years and I didn't have any losses until the 4th winter. So then I bought some Russian bees, some foliage Russian bees, and they dropped dead just as quick. So then the following year, I tried this the following winter I tried this formic acid. And if you see my videos, I didn't have any losses last winter. You lose queens from the formic acid when you put it in there, and I ended up losing some more after I took the formic acid out. So I'm down to 64 colonies from a total. I started at 74. So we'll say I lost 10% or a little more. So you can't blame it all on the formic acid. Sometimes it's just queen just dies. But anyway, just thought you ought to know. I'm not into leaving my colonies and seeing how they do in the spring because they're worth quite a bit of money, $150 a piece. I will be proactive all winter long and keeping them alive. And if you don't do stuff like this, you're basically a fool. Because the bees they sell after the almond pollination, they're really not all that healthy. They've been chemically treated in California out in the almonds. And what I'm doing here is to keep the top screen. This is what I use. I plug the hole down at the bottom, and when I want bees to come out through the top screen, I have it like that. But what I do is because they're clustered now, I flipped it over so it's like this, so they can't get out the top. But then I plug that hole there, and I put a bottom board here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this onto the bottom board and make sure the screen from the other hive down below doesn't move, because you really don't want the bees coming out. It's in the 40s right now, and there's no sunshine. So if the bees come out right now, they're going to fly around for a little while, and they're going to land somewhere, and they're going to get chilled, and I'm going to make it back into the hive. So I really don't want to decrease the numbers in my colonies here. These colonies here, they're down below the sugar I put in there. You can look here, and you look here, and if you see bees here, you know they're that far. Some of them are up in the sugar, some of them haven't come up to the sugar yet. And if you see bees walking around, you know they're warm enough. They're walking around, so they're all right. And you always check. I check for the flashlight in here. Stick a flashlight in there, a little teeny mag light flashlight, and see if the bees are moving around. If you're moving around, they're okay. So anyway, I'm going to end the video now. Thank you.